Father bought the farm in 1936 and it consisted of only this part here of 115 acres. Later on, when the brothers came home on the farm, we bought an L-shaped part from a neighbour and developed that as to what you see there. I started to take over the farm in around the 1970s from Dad, and been developing it ever since. It now totals 364 acres and milking 200 odd cows this year. When the development of the farm, we started to put in laneways to get across some of the wet areas on the property at the time, and fenced all that off so as we could have control. So there was only Heather and myself running the farm, and while the family the kids were at school actually. And we, being members of a land care group at Mount Lyell, we developed trees and shelter belts and the shade areas for the cows to be in through the hot summer. Further development was to cut paddock sizes down so they're manageable, and to create a system where we do a rotational grazing. This was what the situation was in about 1975, what we had done, and since then in planning, this has taken place in the years from that year onwards. We've developed all this with laneways right through with equal size paddocks. We've created more trees along here. We've done a project with Melbourne Water Board at the back here to create more trees. I've since put a 5-year covenants on trees in here and put 1,500 trees, understory trees in here to develop a more bush effect for wildlife habitat. In conjunction with land care, we've joined up with a farm link with the Mount Lyell Land Care on some 6 properties, so it's some 5 kilometres of fencing for a wildlife corridor, and to assist in stopping erosion in the creeks, and to create a better structure for fertiliser runoff, doesn't get into the streams for pollution or any of that sort of thing. Lately we've increased this laneway through to link up with the property that the boys bought at the back, and have developed the property from the previous owner, which constitutes another 10 acres of bush in its native state, and that's to be left alone for another 10 years. I have a 10-year covenants on that. I've had financial support from land care to fence that off so that we keep cattle out of that, and they've been able to give us trees to plant to thicken up the actual bush itself. In the bush here, there's about 8 acres of bush here. I've planted 1,500 understory trees, and that's to thicken it up for wildlife and just to try and give that a bit more wind resistance so as to protect the pastures on the western slopes. At the back of a 10 acres, which is natural vegetation, that is also protecting something like 60 or 70 odd acres, and that has a beneficial effect on the grasses, maintaining our healthier growth. This farm has changed in 15 years, where it's given us an idea, being the whole farm planning, to plan where to put laneways, to have an easy access to the paddocks, and to make it easier for the cows to walk freely back to the cow shed. Now, most of our laneways are 18 foot wide to 20 foot wide, whereas cows can walk slowly without any pressure, 6 abreast down the laneway, so the manageability of bringing them back to the shed is quite easy. Well, the electric fencing situation, we did have electric fences in, but the insufficiency of the voltage wasn't keeping the cattle in when they were really looking to push through and get some more grass from somewhere else. I thought there was time to do something about it, so I happened to be at a field days at Barna 2 years ago, and I was talking to Jeff and about our situation. He says, look, I'll come out and I'll see what the setup is and I'll give you some advice on what to do. Probably one of the best decisions we made to really control our animals in a given area around the farm. So Jeff came out and said, you need that sort of equipment, I'll set it up for you. We then set the fences up so we could isolate that half of the farm from that half of the farm, and if there was a trouble or a short somewhere, we could isolate it. It's at the cow shed, we can hear what's going on with the ticking. We also know when it says a signal that there's a shortage or whatever. At any times when we need to work on the fence with the little gadget, we could just cut the fence off, we're down there with our equipment, we can then sort the problem out and quickly turn it back on so that we can still maintain the voltage around the farm. The source of power came from the neighbour's cow shed. It was dropping in voltage from 9 to 6 to 3 down to about 1.2, and it was not a really good setup for what we wanted to do on the farm. We wanted a good supply of voltage going through the whole farm, and that's what we've done. We've put that right through. It follows that line right through there now. We now have something like 7.2 going through at the back, which is highly ample for what we've got. Any pasture that grows very quickly and we need to offset paddocks shut up for silage or hay, we then block graze will put an electric fence across halfway, and they will get that night and morning, and then that will then be shifted continuously down the line so it rotates around, and then we'll complete the whole farm. The cost of the electrical fencing has been probably a lot easier to install than the ordinary type of farmer's fences where there was probably 4 or 5 barbed wires. We now incorporate in our fencing 3 plain wires. We're able to put our treated posts further apart to give us a cost-effective electrical fence. It's most important that Gallagher have that Gallagher rep that has the hands-on knowledge of and can pinpoint problems and be able to correct that and give us all those handy hints to correct our system. Farm smarter with what you've got instead of having to expand and creating a lot of expense. Proud of it, yeah. Proud of what I've developed into an easily run, viable farm.